Today's video is brought to you by Happy Little Hug Factory. Make sure to stop by and check them out. Hello everyone and welcome today. Well, we got our Earth set preview today, and I have the pleasure of bringing to you guys the one of the founders of MetaPotion, Mathew Okimotto again. Mathew, say hi.
What's up, everybody?
And I have another one of the MetaPotion crew members, Nguyen. Dan, say
Hey
hi.
everybody,
Yeah,
how's it going?
awesome. Dan and I met at Nats this week. Well, not this week. We met at Nats, and we kind of hit it off there. He wiped the floor with me game one, so naturally I wanted to be his friend.
I got lucky.
But yeah, and we do have a third MetaPotion team. He'll probably join us, I hope. And if he doesn't, well, I guess he won't. You might recognize him from the water review. But anyway, so we're gonna get started. We're gonna do Osmodai. How do you guys say that?
Asmodai, I think, or Asmodai.
Asmodai?
Asmodai sounds right.
Yeah, I think so too. Matt, what do you think about this card, Matt?
I like it in mono Earth, and any Earth deck that's probably like 70% Earth.
Okay.
And like a one of. Probably no more than one.
No more than one of. Okay, that's fair. Are you playing this in anything right now?
I currently haven't been able to find room because usually what happens is I put them in there, and then I'm like, well, 3 EX burst Cecil is just better, and then I don't end up having room for 3 EX burst Cecil plus him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually one of my notes on him that he's a good card, but at the 5-drop slot, he's contesting with a lot of good 5 CP Earth forwards like Cecil and even Gallo for Delita.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you. And then I know like Masked Woman is a little like it has a cost like a target requirement, right? Like it's like, what is it, 4 or less?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So even in that regard, this is still like unnecessary, I feel like. So in my head, I don't really consider Osmodai necessary.
Yeah. I think it's a good card for new players who are starting the game off. It's a low budget card. They don't have to spend a ton on like 5-drop Cecil.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. And I didn't mention for our listeners, I think we're using, what did we say we were using for our scale? The Flanders, right? We're using a Flanders scale. So,
oh, yeah.
What are we rating this, guys? A 1 or 2, 3 or 4?
Are we allowed to use decimals, or is it just solid numbers?
I prefer solid numbers, I guess, but the decimal is fine if it's that important. Like if it's in. So okay, so let me ask you guys then: how are we? 1 is completely useless. Would you agree, or it's like not even relevant for like constructed? Is that?
If it's not even relevant, I would give it like a 0.
Okay, so what's a 1? Can we agree on on our stats here? Like 1 is
1 maybe to me would be like a card that probably won't see play, but maybe you look at it like in the future.
Okay, and what about a 2, Matt? What do you think qualifies a 2?
Almost playable. That's probably the best.
Okay, and so what separates that from a 3?
Like a 3 is playable and potentially a 1 of.
Okay, and Dan, do you think? Can you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, what about 4? What do you think 4 has to be?
I think 4 is kind of like almost staple territory. Like it's probably going to see play if you're in that color.
Okay, and 5 is must play, build a deck
It's
around,
like, yeah.
right? Pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. Like you're going to slam 3 Alcides or 3 walls or whatever.
Okay, all right, it's cool. So we have everyone's on pretty much the same concepts of like how to rate these cards. So what are we thinking? Like a 1 of for this one? Like, so maybe a 3.
I'm gonna say this is a 2.
This is a 2.
Yeah, I agree. Like if he's gonna go into your deck, he's probably gonna be like your 4th Cecil or something.
Okay, all right, there you go. So that's 2 Flans. Let's move on to the next one. I'll start Dan here. Vanille. When Vanille enters the field, choose a dual forward. Select the number and reveal the top card of your deck. If the revealed card is the same cost as the selected number, break it. How do you feel about this, Dan?
It also has an S effect.
Yeah.
So the S effect is S, Earth, and Dull. At the end of turn, Dull forwards opponent controls. As much as I like this card, I don't think you're going to play it over the Opus 1 Vanille. Or at least Matt's not going to play it over the Opus 1 Vanille.
Matt, he's telling Matt.
You don't know me.
You don't know me.
Oh, I know you. I think it's a cool card, but because by itself it's not great without other cards that affect the top of your deck, you're kind of just blindly doing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not great in that regard. It's also under curve, so it's like 4 mana 7K.
Yeah.
The Opus 1 Vanille gets a pass because you just keep coming back, but this one will die against other 4 CP forwards. The S effect is kind of interesting. Maybe this goes in some sort of like aggressive Earth deck that you use it and then you at the end of their turn and you push for lethal on your turn. But other than that, I don't really see this card being that played.
Okay, Matt.
You want me to rate it on
No.
1 to 5? Or?
Well, we can rate it at the end, but just what are your takes on the new Vanille? Because I know you're a fan of Vanille, the character, right?
I actually like it, but I like Dan's pretty right. It's gonna be hard to get me off of the Opus 1 one.
Yeah, I like it too. That's why I said I like it, but I don't see myself playing it.
I think if they introduce more cards that manipulate the top of your deck, this could see more potential. I know they added Oracle, the water backup, and they have Yule and like Light Yuna, but it's like you're using those cards to synergize probably with better cards.
Yeah.
And this is just like an added bonus. So it's probably one of those like if you are Earth and happen to be running those other cards, maybe you throw 1 or 2 of these in.
Okay. So
it'll be. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So you guys don't think she'll replace the Opus 1 runner, right? The Resurrect one or whatever.
Not anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless like somebody can really afford to build a deck that can afford to pay 4 CP for this kind of effect.
Yeah. Or like find a way to like effectively make it like really strong, right? Like that would be the requirement, right?
Yeah, my issue is the consistency. Like it doesn't seem very consistent when I played it. So it wasn't very good.
Okay. All right. So what are we giving this then?
I would give it a 1. It's gonna be a card I pay attention to just because it has an S effect.
Okay.
And it's a card named Vanille, so if more Vanilles come out, maybe it gets better.
Okay. And Matt, would you agree with that? A 1?
He's laughing because he loves Vanille.
I want to say 2. I'm gonna say 2.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
So like my reasoning behind it is like the potential for it to be like a pseudo 2-drop 7K or even like a free 7K if you like kill a 4 CP forward or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's there. Like and it's not like unrealistic to happen. Like it can go with water, earth, water, ice, and like those are pretty good like deck archetypes. So it's not something you won't see, and it's something that's not hard to pull off. It's just your deck strategy will be evolved around like manipulating the top of your deck.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was going to mention this as a negative for Asmodee, but maybe I'm foreseeing the future and it's too murky or whatever. But in my testing, like Opus 1 Fairy is like super good right now. It's just super good with cards like Lan and like what's the 3-drop Galdes?
Yeah.
It's just a super good combat trick, and just happens to be super good against like ice and earth dull effects. So if people start seeing more play, or if Fairy starts seeing more play, I don't really see Vanille being that good.
Interesting. Okay. So then I guess we can leave it at like between a 1 and 2 from both of our guests today.
Sure. Yeah.
We can move on though. Let's see. Carbuncle. Back attack. We like summons and abilities. This card can be played during either player's attack phase or main phase. Matt, how do you feel about this one?
I'm gonna say it reads like a 4, but probably plays like a 1.
Okay. So what you're saying is that it's not really necessary, like to have
it
a backup.
reads good, right? The card reads good because you can like do like turn 0 play Carbuncle, and then turn 1 play like Ilaria or Epitaph and get a Yuri or something, right? Like that's pretty sick. Mm-hmm. But you have to probably be running 3 to pull that consistently, and if you don't see it like later in the game, it's like kind of whatever.
Yeah, this
Like,
is
like you want this as your turn 0 play, so you're probably having to run 3. And if you don't have it as your turn 0 play, it's less good.
Okay.
I think this has the same problem as a card like my own, the Wind backup. Like you want it once and you want it early or whenever you can get it, but you don't want 3 of them in your deck.
I see. So some other players would argue that this is I don't know if necessarily a 3 of, but like it's to help ramp up, right? Like you let your opponent think that you have only X backups, and then just before they end their turn, you drop a third, giving them. Do you think there's some importance to that, like Dan?
I don't know if like bluffing like a ramp strategy like that is necessarily super strong or gonna make me as an opponent change my mind on how I play the game. Like if you just slam a carbuncle at the end of my turn, I'm like, okay, cool. I was gonna pass my turn anyways. If anything, that just means like whatever removal I have in my hand is probably gonna be juicier because you just spent a card.
I think most people, like I said, are gonna want this to be like a turn 0 play, but it'll probably end up being like a tech card for like to go with forwards that deal with stuff like backups when they enter the field. Like let's say Dorgan, right? Like imagine you have the Wind Dorgan in play, and your opponent plays something, and at the end of their turn you carbuncle and then RFG the forward.
Yeah.
Like I could see that, but I think initially everyone's gonna be like, let's put 3 to get that turn 0 play, and realize they can't always live the dream, and they'd rather just play like a consistent deck.
Okay.
Or consistent.
I agree.
That's cool. So just there you go, guys. If you didn't know about that play, the Dorgan plays there now for you too. Also, a side note though, how do you guys feel about like having a carbuncle forward and like playing carbuncles from your hand as summons? Does that even cross your mind?
I don't role play, so it's fine. I mean, I do role play, just not in Final Fantasy.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. Like, you could spam Ifrit a bunch of times in one combat, I guess, right? Like, if you had, what's it called, the Mimic materia from FF7.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Okay, so let's land on something there with this. Probably a 2, right? I feel like you guys are leaning towards 2 with this one.
I don't know about Matt, but I'm leaning towards 1 just because I don't see myself replacing any of my current Earth choices with Carbuncle.
Okay, Matt, do you agree?
It's probably a pretty controversial topic. I mean, some people probably really love this card and would rate it at like a 4. Other people probably are more in tune to what I also am. Like it's probably more like a 1. But I'm gonna say, do I have to actually rate it?
Well, that's kind of the theme. That's kind of the point here. We're reviewing the cards, man.
because it's like I need to play the card more. Like I haven't actually spent a lot of time playing with it, so It's hard to like give you like a played rating. So like, cause like at first glance, like I said, it seems like a 4, and I don't want to say 4, and it ends up like not being a 4.
That's fine. So then let's give it a 4 asterisk.
4 asterisk, but probably a 1.
But it's probably the asterisk is like in parentheses, and the bottom of this will say probably means a 1. Well, see again, but that's why I brought you guys on here, and for everyone listening, it's like these are the kind of. These guys, this is Meta Potion. Matt's going to Worlds, so when he's thinking of Carbuncle as a 4, but realistically it might be a 1, this is the kind of stuff that I want, our listeners to, be aware of, a different thought process. So, whatever you rate it now might not necessarily be where it ends up, but just so people know what to think of cards. Like, give other people thoughts, that they might not have. So, that's fine. We'll give it a 4 with an asterisk because, like you said, it needs the play testing. And I will go with like somewhere in between the middle, like a 2 for me, and we'll leave Dan's 1 there.
I don't think it's an unplayable card. Like most 2-drop backups are pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I don't know if it's gonna change my backup line or anything, but
yeah, I just don't see what I'm replacing Carbuncle with.
Yeah, I think like when evaluating the card, right? You read it, like does it read good? Okay. and then you like theorize it, like, hey, what would I replace in like current decks, or what would go with this that's maybe not seen, and like you just evaluate the card off of that, and like it reads well, right?
Yeah.
Like who doesn't want to play an instant speed backup?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But then you realize like doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sometimes you have to overpay. Like sometimes you have to play it turn one because it's your only backup, and it's a evoker.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just the same as like anything else, right? Like, or it's pretty much an invoker, like you said. Yeah. So, well, now we'll know. We'll see how it ends up. Maybe we'll see Carbuncle in a few decks. We really should talk about this next one though, because I think so I've just started playing Earth, and the next card we're going to talk about, guys, is Galuf or Galuf. How do you guys say it?
I've heard both.
I've heard both, right?
I call him Galuf.
Galuf, right? All right, so let's go with Galuf. Galuf cannot.
I call it Chris Adam.
In the future, maybe, like with that white hair, that big beard.
I'm just kidding.
When Galuf cannot be broken during your turn, Galuf cannot be broken during your turn. When Galuf attacks, choose a forward. You may pay 2 Earth. If you do so, it must block Galuf this turn, if possible. And stop. Choose up to 2 forwards. They cannot attack this turn. Matt, your thoughts?
Card reads really well. Has lots of text. It's on curve for a 5 CP. It's category 5, which matters this set because there's lots of cards that like grab category 5 cards. Not being able to be broken is really good text. Like card seems pretty good. I like it.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I like this card too. Side note, this card is probably the biggest Opus 7 bomb in sealed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You just can't lose unless your opponent also has a Galuf and played it first. But for standard, I think the card is very strong. I'm not exactly sure if you just throw the card into any Earth deck or like say Wall, or if you have to kind of build around this card. I haven't really tested it too much. It seems like it would be mega annoying in the Wind Earth deck that like Greg Cole and Sharina Decano play. I don't know if anybody listening has ever played against those two, but they love playing this Wind Earth deck that just does not let you interact with them. And they just play these giant haymaker dudes.
Okay. Well, so I guess a follow-up question for you guys. Do you think, you're saying it needs a deck around it, or if it's just not necessarily going to be able to be splashed in. So where does he rate, like where would you rate him?
Well, I'm not sure if he can just go into any Earth deck, or if he can, or if you have to build around him.
Okay, but it compared to like the other Earth boss monsters, I guess you could say like Delita, or even what's another one?
There's Prish.
Oh yeah, like the Prishes and stuff like that. Like where would you put Galuf on that scale? Like Cecil, yeah. Cecil.
I think he'd be somewhere in the middle. Like I think he's better than Prish.
Is he worse than Delita?
He's probably better than Delita.
Oh, better than Delita. Okay.
But I think I would still run 3 5-drop Cecil over Galuf if I had to choose. Granted though, like Galuf's S effect doesn't seem that good to me. Like so maybe you can get away with just running 1 or 2 copies.
Mm-hmm. Any combos with this other than like dropping Sin next to him on your turn? Like
you cut off at the
and is there any combos you guys can think like with not being broken on your turn other than dropping Sin?
That is a good. For some reason, I didn't even think about that. Because
like that's
after pay 5.
Oh yeah, of course, right? So yeah, ideally, like let's say you're in a bad spot and Galuf's still there, like because he can't break on your turn or whatever. But like your opponent starts developing board, and then you drop Sin on your turn, and it's just like okay, he'll stay though, right? So that's the dream right now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely cards like Hecaton Kai are super good with Galuf, right? Because it doesn't matter how much damage he's taking that turn.
Yeah, he's just gonna live forever.
Yeah.
Matt,
I don't really see him as a combo card. Maybe other people do. I just see him as this kind of big dude that's like annoying to kill, and then like can just eat up other cards.
Okay.
I think he's good.
Yeah, I think he's good too. What are we gonna give this guy though? What can we rate him?
I'd probably give him somewhere between a 3 and a 4. I'll probably lean towards 4 just because he's well statted and he's got very strong text.
Okay, Matt.
I'm gonna say 3.
All right. Well, we can.
I feel like he's good. Will probably never replace EX Cecil, and unless you're running Mono Earth, the 5-drop slot or higher is going to be eaten by a lot of other better cards from other elements. So I have a hard time putting him in any more than a 1-of in any deck that's not Mono Earth. But
yeah, I definitely see this card as a Mono Earth card. Maybe that's why I'm giving him a 4, because with that triggered effect, I want to do it like all the time, like every turn.
I see. Okay. All right. So we can move on then. Let's see. We have Cryo, Warrior of Light. Matt, take this one. What do you guys think? What do you think of this one?
Card has lots of good text. It's an on stat 4 drop. It's category 5. Does a good job.
Okay.
What's not to like about it?
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. Like, Cryo's very strong, and she's got a lot of text, like you like to say. I think I've heard you say. But where do you think she fits right now in the current meta?
She can fit in a Warrior of Light deck, obviously, just because of the job, but she doesn't have to go in there. Like, having the Warrior of Light job is nice. It's kind of like just an added bonus. It's that icing on the cake. But her other text is great. Like, being able to cast summons with any CP element is great. And then when you cast a summon, you get like a mini Garnet effect on a forward. And then giving her basically immune to abilities if you discard a summon. Like, she's hard to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's just a solid card.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think this is kind of like a build around card too, because I think she kind of falls in line with the Minwoo or Garnet, where you kind of want a deck with a lot of summons.
Yeah.
The question is like, how many colors are you? How many forwards are you running versus how many summons are you running? That it's an exciting card for me. I really like cards like this because it makes me think a lot about brewing up crazy decks, even though they might not be super competitive. They're usually really fun.
So I guess what's really important for me is like the cost required to cast your summons can be paid with CP of any element. So it's just like it leaves for me this card I feel like Earth has that the most too, where it can go into the really strong multicolor decks. And I think as we continue to see cards like this, Earth is gonna be like a core for those 4 to 5 color decks, like kind of how we had the EX Burst deck with all that stuff, and
it's kind of like green and Magic, right? Like it can make a lot of the other colors.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really strong for that reason, and obviously it's other stuff like that. So, what do you guys want to give this though?
I think I would give it a 3 right now, just because I don't know what deck it falls into. Like, it doesn't slot into any deck right away, and I don't think you jam 3 of these into any existing deck right now.
Have you guys seen this at locals yet? Sorry.
So, say that again. Sorry.
Have you guys seen this at your locals yet?
No, nobody's played with it. I think it's a card that's kind of intimidating, right? Like, the world is your oyster at this point when you can pay for any summon in any color. So I think people are still brewing with it. They're figuring it out. Okay. And I'm trying to mess around with it too.
Matt, what are you gonna give it?
So while the card reads good, you have to compare it to all the other 4 drops that Earth has.
Yep.
Or all the other 4 drops in general.
Okay.
And this card reads good if you run lots of summons. And if you run lots of summons, you probably run less threat, forward threats. So you're probably in a deck with Minwoo or Krill plus Garnet, just annoying forwards that work well with summons. So your summon count's probably super high.
Yep.
Which means the reason I'm saying all this is because you're building a deck around her. And I think that's gonna take a long time to fine tune. So right now I'm gonna give it a 3.
I agree with the 3.
Okay, so we can give it a 3. And actually, before we continue, I think our third meta potion guy is here. Andy.
Oh man.
Andy, are you on?
Yo, I'm here. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yo, I hear all these weird things about these weird colored cars. I don't even know what this color is, but let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, so I guess I'll start you off. Just to try to keep this a little shorter than the rest of them. We'll give going forward from here. We're gonna give everyone one card, and that way we can just take it easy.
You can't silence me, man. I'm gonna talk about all the cards.
For our listeners. But okay, Andy. So then take on the next one. Here we have Kolka. 4-cost backup. When Kolka enters the field, you may search for one Earth forward and add it to your hand. Talk to me. What do you think about this card?
Me?
Yeah, Andy.
Oh, it's expensive for no reason. I think the 2CP Earth backup that we got in Opus 6 that lets you search for any forward in your deck works that much better. What is it?
Mog?
Mog? Yeah, one of the Mogs. Sorry. I usually use this element.
Mog Mobius.
Mog Mobius. Yeah. Bam. That guy.
Okay, so
but yeah, so seeing this guy, I mean, he's just, I guess you'd probably use him for the category, the Crystal Chronicles category, even though nothing really like uses it or pieces it or anything like that. It is also the king job, which I don't know anything that uses king jobs or needs a job king like on the field or something like that. So I don't know. It's definitely a lackluster card for me.
Okay. Can you guys agree with that?
I think it's a little better than, like, in my opinion, it's not super good for sure. It's like 4 CP, right? But it's going to be at least as good as Marrow Web or Ysail, I think.
Yeah.
You'll see it sometimes.
When it's combo dependent, right? Like when you're looking for combo pieces and stuff, like.
I mean, the fact that you can search for any Earth forward is pretty good.
Yeah.
Because most searchers require specific cards. So if like Earth is like your main color, then you search for basically anything you want. 4 is expensive, but I think as a 1 of or 2 of, it's not bad.
Okay. Matt?
Oh, we're all going?
Oh, it's just really quick.
One card.
Really quick.
Yeah, man. What's going on?
So I want to note that it's a common, right? So like Ysail and Marrow were rare, so that's probably something to consider.
That's true.
That they made it a common, yet it's got pretty like a pseudo same effect as like Marrow, right? Where Marrow searches for a water and it costs 4 CP, and Ysail searches for an ice and it's 4 CP. But both of those are rares. This is a common, so it's kind of something to consider. Like maybe the power level of the water and the ice forwards are just so much higher. That's probably why the searches for those are rares, and this is a common.
Interesting.
I don't know, just some random fact maybe.
Random, interesting. Okay, cool. So,
or it could be they didn't have enough room in the rare section and they just bumped it down. That happens too in card development.
So, Andy, since I started with you, what would you rate this card? Probably like a 1 or a 2? Not playable? Not even in your range?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd give it like what's the rating scale? We're going to 10,
We're
up to 5.
1 to 5 flans.
We're using flans?
We're using flans here.
Oh man, this guy is like
more like flan.
Half a flan out of 5.
Half a flan.
Yeah, not even the full. This is a flan that it's like a red flan that got hit with Firaga. Level 1.
All right, then we'll move on. Then Matt, I'll let you take Zagnal. When a character of cost 6 or more enters your field, Zagnal also becomes a forward with 9,000 power. What do you think, Matt?
Cards pretty mediocre, like pretty bad. It's just bad. I think like you have to build a deck around it. And granted, it's not hard to like play 6 costs or more characters in Earth because a lot of your stuff is just expensive and 6 or more in general. Like I just don't think you can rely on having these in your deck and not having a 6-cost character and not being able to play a 6-cost character and they just sit on the field. Like, especially with Turbo being relevant right now. Like, maybe after Turbo is non-existent, maybe this can become in a deck. But, like, right now, I can't ever see myself running this while Turbo's a deck.
Okay. Well, so just a side note. I don't know if you're aware, though. You probably are. But I guess here at my locals, a lot of people are talking about this card because of they want to set up, like, 3 of them and then drop Shantoto and then, like, let Shantoto clear and then they'll come out.
That's called Magical Christmas Land.
Yeah. So is that even something that you guys thought of or something like that? Or is that?
I thought of it more of maybe it's another monster in the 3-color monster deck that you can kind of play for cheap and then maybe drop a Shantotto and these guys will activate. But even then, it's still pretty mediocre because it can't activate by itself.
Yeah.
Like the other monsters can in that deck. So I don't really see myself playing this card.
Okay, Matt. So what do you want to give this one so we can move on?
Well, I also want to say, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's your card.
Like while it's hard to activate, it also is a 2-drop monster with a bunch of monster removal out there. Like more monster removal was printed, so it's like people are already going to be running cards that answer this. So what? Like I don't know. I just don't think the card is good enough right now.
Okay.
That being with that, it's 0. We can go 0, right?
Sure. For you,
a non-existent flan out of 5.
Yeah.
No flans.
No
This
flans.
card gets no flans.
All right then.
For now.
We're skipping dessert on this one.
We're skipping this. Dan, Shantotto. Name one for 1 CP. Name one element other than light and dark. Shantotto becomes the named element until the end of the turn. You can only use this ability once per turn.
Whew, this card is... I'm kind of sad this card is named Shantotto. Like, I think if it was a different card, I might try it. But because it's never going to replace the 7 CP Shantotto, I'll probably never try it in any of my decks. Just to maybe comment on the card itself, though, I think the mana fixing is an interesting effect. But for 2 CP, you can also just run Chaos or Cosmos, and you can find those cards.
Right?
So it's okay, but I don't think anyone's gonna play this card.
I guess for me, the only
I
thing...
give it like a 0.5.
Okay, 0.5. So these Flanders are
We're
getting...
getting the ratios here. The decimals.
These Flans are really, like, crippling.
Some deformed flans.
So I guess the only thing I agree with you because the name is Shantotto, but my real thing is that I guess something we haven't mentioned really is title format since we started this. But you know we already have the other Shantotto, but playing this might help the 11 backup lines too. And I think that's something we should like consider maybe a little bit while we're going forward through these.
Sure, I actually thought about that too because I really like title. Out of the Meta Potion team, I probably played the most title.
Okay.
And in title, you get to tap any color for any, or you get to pay any color for any dude except for their activated abilities, right? So I don't know what activated abilities in 11 title would I really care to activate. That maybe Zayd or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But then paying 1 to pay, you're basically paying 2 to activate Zayd. That doesn't sound that great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what are you gonna give this again? Half, right? Half a flan?
No, I'm gonna talk it because it's even worse in title. So it's a 0 for me.
Okay. All right then. Andy, Summoner. When Summoner enters the field, choosing forward, the cost paid to play Summoner included ICP, freeze it. What do you think?
Nah, pass. That's these cards. I mean, the only thing that I like about these cards is that you can trigger their abilities without actually paying that other CP just to like, you know, pop things. For example, like a little like I'm sure we all saw the ruling video. So pretty much like that's what you can do. You can use those, but to actually like abuse a card like this, I think if you're gonna be playing like mono Earth and you need to freeze something, just throw Yuri in there. Let's talk about Yuri. Can we talk about Yuri instead of mono Earth?
No.
He does kind of.
Yeah, and he does count as Earth too, so
Well, no.
No, man. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these. Like
These
this card
multi-
and do that card. I guess the only one that I actually kind of like is the Fire Red Mage that discards card with I think Ice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So but these I don't know. They're kind of lame.
They're just too specific, right? Like it's like it forces you to throw them in those decks, right?
I mean, it allows some like silliness when you're trying to do dual colors, but nothing that's gonna like break the game or something like that. Like I'm sure you're gonna add other cards. You're not even gonna consider summon in there. Maybe like a 1-of or something.
Okay, that's fair. So what? Like a 1-0 also?
Yeah, 0 because like I said, if you're gonna be playing ice cards, you're gonna include ice cards that freeze things a lot better, like Genesis or something. You know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, then we can move on. Matt, we're back at you. Sesat, Dawn Warrior. He's got multiple effects. You know, for 2 Earth, 2000, Earth Ice, Dull Forward, choose a Dull Forward, deal a 4K. Earth Wind, choose a Forward, activate it. And Earth Lightning, choose an active forward, deal a 4K. What do you think?
You like to give me the cards with all the text on it, huh?
Yeah, I just like it when you say, reads good, but...
Everyone gets these one-liners, and I get like 5 effects. So. I like the card. It's on curve for the cost. It's a Dawn Warrior drop, which matters. It's category 5, which also matters. I wish it was just like 1 ice, 1 wind, or 1 lightning. Not earth and an ice, earth and a wind, earth and a lightning. But it's probably to balance it because the effects are all pretty good.
Okay.
I guess you can kind of like treat this like a Yuri, right? Because like Yuri, you're gonna do the same thing, right? You have a forward out, and then you'll pay 2 back. Most of the time, you have a forward, and you have Yuri and 2 backups do his effects. It's kind of the same, somewhat, but these effects are a little different. Not as good as Yuri.
Okay, I agree. So you keep so this is like the second, third time maybe you say category 5 is important, Dawn Warrior and stuff like that. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that maybe?
Yeah, there's the new Legend Bards was printed. That's category 5 and Ready's 2 category 5 characters. Ferris, I think we talked a little bit about it earlier. The water forward that reveals the top 5 cards of your deck for category 5. There's just a lot of category 5 this set, so having that category is good.
So you think that the tribe or the tribal idea of like the Cat 5 deck in this is going to be seeing a lot more play now, like this set?
Potentially. It's one of those decks that you can't build in the first like 3 or 4 weeks of the set. You probably need like the meta to be a little more defined.
Yeah.
And then realize if you can get away with going with that tribal route. It's not as nice as like Scions, where every forward in your deck has haste, so you can of course run it at the beginning of a meta. I think there's potential once the meta gets more formed.
Okay, so do you think it's gonna surprise us like the 2 deck, FF2 deck?
Yeah, it could totally do that. It'll surprise for one event. People will respect it, and then it'll go back to
hiding
in the closet.
Okay, so it's not Yuri. So what would you give this card though?
But that's my issue, right? Like if I'm gonna run that card, why not I just run Yuri?
Yeah.
It's gonna take the slot, same stats. Probably like FFCC is a good category too because you can get it with Epitaph. What would I rate this?
Yeah.
I feel like I rate a lot of cards that need testing, like 3s.
Okay, just feel free to drop the asterisk too, so people know it's like it needs more testing.
Nah, it's fine. I think it's a solid 3. I have played with it a little bit, running it as like a 1-up. Sometimes it's great. Most of the time it's meh.
Okay. All right, then we can move on then. For Dan, we got Tama. Another 2-cost backup companion. Earth, tap, put Tama into the break zone, choose a category WAF card in your break zone and add it to your hand. How important is World of Final Fantasy to you, Dan?
I think there's some really good World of Final Fantasy cards. Like the new Lan is very good. I've been testing with that card. But I've been playing him in like Fire Water, where like you can have a ton of cards in your hand.
Yep.
But in Fire Earth, I'm not sure if I would play Lan in a Fire Earth deck. So where I see Tama being played is maybe I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say Golbez. Like there's some some people have tried deck lists where you play what was that one card? Hyun, yeah. Yeah. And then you like pop out Hyun with Golbez with the other new monster cards that are 2-drops. Because they have decent death abilities, but also there's that new Hamushin soldier that we'll probably get to soon.
Yeah.
That gets bigger, so he's like a 7k 2-drop. Maybe in that deck you can run Atama, but I think the Opus 1 Tom is still very good. Like, it's still a very relevant card. It's, like, I think that's the true carbuncle, that's the true sneaky card. But this card maybe sees played in title. the Waft title isn't that great because it doesn't have summons.
Yeah.
I think this card's kind of like a 1.
Okay.
Like,
that's
you
fair. I
might
can
see it sometimes if somebody wants to play like a Waft deck, but Waft decks aren't great right now.
Okay. So probably what, like a 1 again? 0?
Yeah, I'd give it a 1 because it's not a bad card, like a 2 CP backup, right? But it's a card I would probably look at again when more sets come out.
Okay, that's fine. All right, then we can move on here. We have Andy, take Tillich. You can discard light and dark element cards from your hand to produce CP. Light card produce 2 light CP, and each dark card produce 2 dark CP each. So, what do you think of this one? It's a forward, right?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem right there. Is that it's a forward. I mean, granted, it's a 2 CP forward, but I don't know. I don't see a scenario where you have to start pitching your light and darks and things like that. Like, what? I don't know what deck you can really kind of like put your finger on. It's just like, okay, yeah, I can maybe abuse more. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. So I'm optimistic about this card. I actually like that you can start doing that. It's kind of like the only card that you can do that it produces CP. So just to keep things nice, short, clean, simple, I'm going to give it an optimistic 3 flans out of 5.
Wow, 3.
3, it's up there.
So,
yeah.
So I don't know. So just to go off what you were saying, you don't know what deck. What if this...
I didn't say much. I just gibberished a bunch and then just said CP. Yeah, I don't know. I took nothing from that.
Oh, okay. But what I guess I want to say is too is like, don't you think this might open up for like a stronger dark theme deck, like maybe Dark Earth or like.
No, because then it just auto loses to Archer.
But
I have my board full of darks. What are you gonna do now?
But it would obviously play like Cosmos and what's the other one's name?
Who, Kramer?
Materia?
No, the dark one. What's the dark one's name?
You said Cosmos.
Oh well.
Yeah,
okay, so Chaos.
Chaos
Well,
Spirited?
so yeah, Spirited. You know what I'm saying? Like it would play both of them, obviously. So like that might be a fixing. Like Archer wouldn't necessarily crush it in one hit, but I don't know. That's what I think about this card when I see it, but. I could be wrong too.
That's why I was like a little more optimistic about it, because maybe there's still like you can do stuff with it. I don't know. Like I would kind of feels bad. Like you put the card out and then you then you start using it and you pitch a light or dark or something. And somebody like wants to use removal on it. I'm like, okay, sure. I mean, you didn't really like stop me from pitching what I wanted to pitch,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why it's kind of like out there, because I don't think it's too much of a threat. It's more like a dull battery about to give out.
Yeah, I think you only play this card when you're ready to dump a bunch of dark or light cards out of your hand.
Yeah.
Like, leaving it on the table is too risky.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, too. All right, so we'll just move on then. Matt, why don't you take Necromancer?
I like you always say the same thing. All right, let's move on. Next card!
Next card. Fine, we'll switch it up.
I like Necromancer a lot, actually.
Yeah? Tell me a little bit.
It's a good one of backup.
One ofs, the king of one ofs.
God, I'm gonna get ridiculed for that.
Ridiculed? You're gonna get ridiculed for that instead of the Necromancer, but
sounds like you're getting ridiculed right now.
It's because I love so many one of backups, and I know I said one of for a lot of things.
It's ridiculous.
So back on topic. I like it because it gets any. So it's drop 10 units. It could be forward or backup.
Yeah.
Or monster if they ever make a standard. So that's pretty cool. And the best part about it is it's on your opponent's. You can do it on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the card.
It's pretty sick with minor.
it's like think about how sick is it to always threaten like being able to get a devout on your opponent's turn. Or like maybe your opponent doesn't realize that you can do that, and then they pass, and then you Necromancer, Devout, and then on your turn untap and have Devout ready to do something.
There you go, guys. There's the plays. This is why I bring these guys on here for these kinds of things.
You could loop Necromancer and Minor forever and bore your opponent to death.
or like how cool is it to like if you're playing against a monster deck, and they attack with like I don't know a 5k monster, and then you Necromancer Psychom Enforcer and kill a different monster and then block the monster they attack with. It's so sick.
That is sick.
There you
That
go.
is pretty crazy.
See, guys. All right. Well, so then you're saying it's a one of, but does it make it in all your builds right now? As long as it
Yeah,
has.
you cut out.
Huh?
You cut out. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said it is a one of, but does it make it into your current builds at the moment, like all of them?
Dang, reaching for that information.
That's it.
It's just I'm not telling. Don't tell me what you're playing. Just does it make it?
I'm just messing with you too. Yeah. So far it's been a one of in any Earth deck I'm playing, just to test it.
Okay,
I don't know if it'll stay.
that's fair. So what do you want to rate this card?
3.
Perfect. Next card, Noctis. Dan, go ahead. What do you think about Noctis, man? A lot of hype, I think, right?
Me?
Dan.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for Noctis. I think the hypeness is semi-real. He's a very decent card. I don't know if he's super good though. Like he's kind of like 3-drop Dark Knight Cecil on crack, right? Like Dark Knight Cecil would kind of let your opponent ping you once, and then they wouldn't attack you again because they would lose a guy. But if they attack with Noctis in play, they're probably going to lose a guy because you're probably building your deck around Noctis. That being said, though, I think because you kind of have to build around Noctis, he's not like going to be a 3 of in every deck. I don't think.
Interesting.
Like,
okay.
I've been testing the Curtis Kang's deck, the Water Earth deck that he got second place with at the Soldier Showdown.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, that deck is really great when everything is working. But if you don't have Noctis or you don't have Fusoya, or if you're not you don't have that Earth card to do his his activated ability, it kind of falls apart.
Okay.
In my experience, maybe I'm not playing it as well as Curtis did, but I've been testing it this week, and it's a lot of fun to play, but it isn't the best deck I'm testing.
Okay.
He gets bonus points though for being super good against Alua, because if people don't know, Noctis actually triggers twice every time you take damage. His EX burst line of text will trigger and check if you have 6 points of damage. You still get to choose something. So if you trigger it, or both trigger, right? When Alua hits you, you can have the EX burst part target the Alua. It'll fizzle, and then you can have Noctis fight it.
And it's true what they say. You do learn something new every day, guys.
Yeah, so Noctis is pretty sick against Alua.
Okay, that's cool.
We're gonna edit this part out, but yeah, but
I love Alua too.
Yeah,
I learned it the hard way.
It's gonna be available for all of our Patreons. Yeah, you're just gonna hear a long bleep, like bleep, and that's how you beat this deck.
I will say that his EX burst too will add to hype moments because it's just so specific.
Yeah, the 6 damage. Yeah, of course.
People will be jumping out of their seats every time it happens.
All right.
That's what we want.
So what do you want to give this? How many flans?
I'm gonna give him a 4.
4. Okay.
Instead of a 3. I want to give it a 3, but I like the card, and I think as the meta kind of evolves, people will figure out how to best use Noctis. I can see it. Oh, it's a 5.
It's a 5.
Dang.
Is it a 5?
It's
a 5. You need to play this card for it.
It's a full decked out DLC regalia.
Yeah.
It's the flying regalia, not the ground one.
Yeah.
Did they release the monster truck regalia?
Yeah, monster truck regalia.
Well, I'll give it a 4.
You can ride all over Adamantoids with it.
Well, I guess that's what we said, right? Like a 5 is you build a deck around it, and like you were saying, the deck that Curtis was playing essentially is around the Noctis, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess it's fair. It is a fair assessment. I would probably give it a 5 as well. I think this card is nuts, and now more so that we've learned it's secrets. So, all right, let's get to the next card, everyone.
Nice.
I'm gonna try something new every time. If you control Andy,
if I control Andy,
if you control Andy,
Andy is a monster.
If you control a monster, Bahamutian soldier gains 2,000 power. Andy, what do you think about this card?
Bahamutian soldier.
How do you say it? Read it to me.
That, right?
Read it to me.
Bahamutian.
That sounds right.
Bahablastmushian soldier.
It's like Irving in a suit of armor.
Yeah, basically.
Or it could be Bahamutian.
Do you see those biceps?
Yeah, dude, this guy's got guns and a sword.
Guns and a sword. So
No, so when I first saw this card, I was like, okay, that's kind of whatever. And then I kind of like read it. I was like, oh, if I control a monster, he gains plus 2,000, which is still not bad because then I can control that. But then I saw a deck list somewhere floating around. I wish I can give credit where credit is due, but this card is actually really good in a Golbez deck because it uses all the Wolf monsters as well in it.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. So yeah, this card is actually pretty damn good because then you proc the Golbez, you bring this guy out, he's 7,000 with like Babliz or Frit or whatever you want to bring out as well. And you can bring out all those guys, which then you can also bring out the other 2 CP Wolf you guys mentioned earlier, the what's her name? Hayun.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
you know, you bring her out and she's like a 9K or whatever because you have all these Wolf characters out. And it's a really cool combo. So yeah, I actually like this guy. I'm gonna give him a nice, good 4 Mandeville dances out of 5.
He's changing this.
But how many flankets is that?
How many flank? Yeah, where's the conversion chart? I need
about 2.5 because he legit only fits into one deck.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. I'll go to the next card now. Matt, Geomancer. Put Geomancer to the break zone. Choose a forward against 2,000 power. So this is just a reprint. Can we move on?
Yeah, move on. I like it.
I'll give you another one. We'll take the Prish, the 9-cost Prish, Matt. The cost.
Oh, great. Has a lot of text. Move on.
God, you give me another lot of text card, man.
Do you want to skip you? I'll skip you, man. I'll skip you so fast.
I'm just messing.
The cost required to play Prish onto the field is reduced by 1 for each card named Prish in your break zone. When Prish enters the field, choose a forward your opponent controls. Deal the damage equal to Prish's power. Go, take it away, Matt.
Probably a really sick title card. Construct, probably a lot harder to make playable.
Yeah.
Because, like, so you have, what?
12?
1, 2, 3 other Prishes?
Well,
Right? So there's 12 total if you run this?
yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
So
12.
so if you, let's say you run 12 Prish, that's 12 of your forward slots in what is probably, a 23 to 24 forward deck.
Yeah.
So over half your forwards is one unique character.
No, so it's half of your forwards are pitchable cards is what you're saying because it's like.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I like what the card does. It's like on average probably will cost you 6. So it's like a 6 for a 9K that kills a 9, or 6 for a 10K that kills a 10K if you have like Enacro or something out that buffs it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to build your deck around it. And I think it's cool for like the players that are like Final Fantasy 11 like fanatics and they like to build themed decks. I think it's a really cool card for those type of players. As far as finding its way in the meta, it probably won't. Don't quote me on that, or maybe you can, but it probably won't.
If it doesn't, I'll quote you.
I mean, if it does, great. I would love to be proven wrong. Prove me wrong. Message me. Yeah, I'm gonna give it probably like a 1 Flandin.
1 Flandin. All right. That's good enough for me. So Dan will take the next card, which is actually a Flan. Put Flan in the break zone. Choose a forward. If your opponent doesn't pay 3 CP, it cannot attack or block this turn. Discard Flan. Choose a blocking forward against 1,000 power until the end of the turn. You can only use this ability if Flan is in your hand. Dan, what do you think about this one?
It's no Flandit.
It's no Flander, that's for sure.
I think this card's really weird, right? Like, it costs 2 CP, and then you have to like force your opponent to play 3 CP to prevent an attack or a block. But like, is that really worth having a card take up a spot in your deck? Like, you could just play, if you really wanted that, you could just play Red Mage, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's a different color, obviously, but... Or you could just play something like Huge, because Earth is normally playing huge dudes, and you just, like, either kill whatever's in the way, or... whatever. I think the problem is the cost for me. Like it costs 2, whereas like that kind of effect I kind of see with Flanded. You just kind of pay 1, and Flanded you get to repeat over and over every turn, and that's annoying.
Mm-hmm.
This card kind of just is one and done. As for the discard effect, I don't even think that part's that exciting. Like having a card, it's basically 2 CP to give a guy plus 1k until end of turn, and it has to be a blocking guy. It can't be an attacking guy. That's not.
Kind of.
I give it a 0.
Oh, okay. 0.
Oh, sorry, did I cut
No,
out?
just a little bit, but I think we were able to make it out. It's like has to be a blocking
Okay.
guy.
Yeah, I give him 0 flans.
See, he is not worth
Even though
himself.
he's a flan.
He's not worth
He's
himself. Okay.
He
He's like
failed the flan
he's
test.
so like torn about it too. Look at the card image.
He's like,
The art is awesome. I like the art.
but he's looking at me. He's looking at us right now, and he's saying, "Love me."
He's pretty awesome in sealed because the summons suck in sealed. So
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
All right, Andy, take Moogle. Final Fantasy Crystal. The job Moogle backups you control can produce CP of any element. Tell
Yeah,
me.
man, cards decent. Love it. I like it paired with like, I guess Ice Earth, with Sarah. Was it the starter deck one, the X Burst one?
Yeah, searches Moogles, taps Moogles.
Yeah, man. I do see it splashed in Warrior Light decks, so that you can make your the Moogle 11 that searcher produce any CP as well. So it's I don't know, it's pretty decent. Even then, it could probably find itself in like Daoluma decks or something. The ones that don't want to dedicate a spot for Chaos. But no, I think the card's pretty solid. It's average. It's not gonna like go out of its way and be something crazy. It's not like a Shantoto or something, but it does. It kind of like fixes some other silly decks that you can make, so it makes them just a little bit more consistent.
Okay, that's cool. So what? A solid 3 then, because it can go in just about.
Let's see. I'll take the other halves the other halves of the flans that we weren't using. I'm gonna assemble them together and make like a 2.5.
Still Frankensteining flans.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 9 eyeballs and still only like 2.5.
Okay. All right. Well, it is a good card, so we can go to the next one now. Matt Monk. When Monk enters the field, choose 1 damage forward. If the cost paid to play Monk included lightning CP, deal it 5,000 damage. What are your take on this one?
A few things. It's on stat 4 drop, which is great. It's a standard unit, which is also great because there's lots of cards that can either search for it or play it on the field. Category 5. So far, it like passes like all the like playable tests, right? Good, it's on curve. Good job. The text is pretty nice because normally if you're lightning, you usually can only deal damage to active forwards. This one can do it to any kind of forward or damage forwards. So this doesn't require the forward to be active or damage, which lightning usually does. So it's also nice. The next question is like, how often do you see Earth Lightning decks? And then that's when you get a little sad.
Scions.
Right, but this doesn't have Job Scion.
It doesn't.
So overall, I like the cards. Good and limited, and I just don't think it'll find its a spot in constructed, right? Because we talked about cards earlier like Vanille and Krill.
Yeah.
Which probably have a hard time seeing play, but will have a better chance of seeing play than this card most likely. So
It is searchable by Matt, right? The Opus 6 card.
yeah,
he's a monk.
and Braun and Wind.
I will say that it is, while it's a different element, the card is very similar to Opus 1 Hero Furion, where he's a 4 mana CP, or I'm sorry, 4 CP, 8k, comes into play, deals 4k to something. Like, this requires you to pay a lightning, and you can do 5k instead of 4, but that card doesn't really see play anymore, and I don't know if this card would either.
Okay.
Oh, I need to correct myself. It has to be damaged.
Yeah, it has to be damaged, I think.
Oh, dang.
Oh, then it's worse.
That
I didn't even read
I
that
just
card
reread
either.
the card again, and I was like, wait, it has to be damaged. So it does follow the lightning trend of having to be a damage forward.
So reading is OP.
Yeah, reading's hard.
It is a lightning card in disguise.
It's,
Yeah. So it is a lightning card.
so let's
But it's not lightning element.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so then what, like a 1, 2? Just because it's outshine.
I'm gonna give it a 1, strictly on the fact that it's on curve. It's a standard unit. It's category 5, and it's named monk. If it wasn't those, it would probably be a 0. But because it is those, which means there's maybe a chance for it, I'm gonna give it a.
All right. Let's
I
move
thought
on.
he was gonna give it 1 Opus 1 Orlando out of 5.
That might seem inflated. Oh, we're still landing. My bad. Oh wait, actually.
All right, so we're down to the you guys.
Actually, that's the deck. You swing with Orlando, obviously nothing, and then you just bring out the monk and deal something 8k damage. Man, these decks just build themselves.
But then you ask yourself, if you're running Opus 1 Orlando, what are you doing with your life?
Look, man, a lot of things are happening. All right, they swung the banhammer. All right.
Yeah, man.
Things are changing. All right, we got new brews going on. We gotta do something.
Wait, does the community know that you ran Opus 1 Orlando at Gen Con?
Of course.
Don't tell anybody.
How they do?
It's out of the bag now.
All right, so before this turns into a different podcast, like a different kind of recording, Dan, let's wrap up with you and Yojimbo on this last card.
Yojimbo, go ahead and rate Dan. Go for it.
So I think Yojimbo's a pretty okay card, but I don't think he's as good as the 5 CP EX Titan, even with the 1 CP discount. Hecaton Chair does the same thing, right? So they both forwards have to do damage to each other.
Yep.
And I think that's where it's worse than the 5 CP Titan, because 5 CP Titan just is a one-way burst of damage. The plus 1k power is okay, but it's not great compared to the Titan that gives plus 2 CP all the time. The EX burst is nice, but that's when you EX burst it. I guess it'll be fine if as like a 4th or 5th copy of Titan if you really want that kind of effect in your deck. But overall, I give Yojimbo like a 2 because I think people will play him, but he's not ideal. I don't think he's like the best Earth Summon.
Okay. All right. Well, that wraps up the cards. But before we go, guys, I do want to take the time to obviously.
You cut off a little bit. Sorry.
No, it's cool.
You got the hiccups, man.
I got the hiccups. So that wraps up all the cards. That wraps up the set. I do want to thank you guys again. But before we go, I have just like 2 questions I want to ask, and this is for all of you. So just feel free to just. I'll start with actually Andy on the first one. So after we've gone through all these cards, which color do you think is going to be best with Earth, like in combination, going down the road for this?
If you really want to pair it with something that be viable, I think you can still go with ice. I just still think that they just play well together, and they kind of like compensate one another pretty well.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd kind of just still play Earth Ice.
Earth Ice. Okay. Matt, what do you think?
Probably Wind.
Probably Wind?
I think Wind Earth got pretty nice buff this set.
Okay. Dan?
Well, we all think Noctis is the best Earth card in Opus 7, right? So if we're strictly looking at the Earth Opus 7 cards, I think Earth Water is probably one of the best decks to play Noctis in. Just because you can manipulate your deck so much, and he's pretty awesome with Minwoo, cards like that. So I think Earth Water is actually, I know Earth Water is like pretty awesome because I've been testing it this week.
Yeah. Okay, and well, that's actually good the way you approach that question, because the next question is actually which card do you think is going to make the biggest impact from Opus 7 of the Earth cards anyway? And I think you think Noctis. Is that safe to say, Dan?
I think in the first few weeks, Noctis is probably the easiest answer. Like, he's just very impactful in what he does, right? Like, he affects combat, and Final Fantasy TCG is a very combat-focused game. So he's kind of like annoying to kill, and he can shoot things, and he has EX burst. He's got a lot of good stuff going for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think Noctis just is like the gateway into another element. So like if it's something that you kind of want to experiment, the right away like thing is like, well, this is what I do is I look at the legendaries and I go, okay, well these guys are really broken. How do I now base the deck around that? You know, I don't kind of like, I'm not gonna like pick up Monk or Flan or something like, okay, let's base the deck around that. That's just not my thought process.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I
But,
think
I
most
mean,
players are that way.
Yeah, he just has a lot of like great text that just reads well. So eventually you're just like, okay, this seems like the approach I want to go. Now what benefits that? And especially like what Dan said about the minimal. I mean, that just makes him so much more playable. But yeah, I mean, what I keep thinking about is the snow backup. So like, I know Earth has a lot of brave forwards, so when you're like attacking, now they always have the ability to duel stuff. They just become that much better.
Mm. And Matt, what do you think is gonna make the biggest impact?
Of the Earth 7 cards?
Yeah.
Probably Noctis, yeah.
Yeah, so so Noctis for sure, huh? All right, well.
I actually will even step it up and I'll say Noctis is the most played card at Worlds.
Wow.
Whoa.
Whoa.
How can that be when you can play 3 thaumaturges?
Dang.
Because you can play 3 Noctis and Noctis is better.
Man.
You only get to play 1.
You only need 1 to answer damage.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I'm trying to get people off Noctis, okay?
Okay, right, never mind. Yeah,
Alrighty.
actually, probably 2 CP Shen total, my bad.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. That's gonna color fix everybody.
You heard it here.
All right, guys. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on with me, guys. If anyone listening hasn't gone for whatever reason to check out like the Meta Potion Facebook or their website, please, I'll leave the link in the description below. You know, these guys are great. I love every single one of them.
We love you.
And
some more than others, I heard.
He
he really loves Okimotto. Like really.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's unhealthy.
I mean, who doesn't?
Oh, God.
Oh, gosh. All right, guys. Well, that wraps us up. Thanks again for coming on, guys, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Opus VII.